Hey, welcome to the Valued Life podcast. My name is Teresa Richards and I'm a mindset and productivity coach for perfectionists. My goal is to help perfectionists untangle their self-worth from their career and their achievements so that they can be productive without burning out. So if you're a perfectionist looking to increase your self-awareness, you've come to the right place. Today, I'm going to be going over 3 ways you can increase your self-awareness, and if you want to find out more, you can always check out the full blog post on thevaluedlife.co.uk. So let's jump right into it. So if you're listening to this podcast, you might fall into the following 2 categories. You might be the high achiever who climbed up the corporate career ladder using your perfectionism as the driving force behind your success. However, you only realise it only helped you get to a certain point in your career, and now it's hindering your success because you're scared to let go and your fear of failure keeps you overworking yourself to burn out. Or maybe you're on the opposite end of the spectrum. Your perfectionism keeps you stuck, feeling helpless and in your comfort zone, and you never really feel like you've reached your full potential. You constantly feel guilty for not doing enough, and you're scared to take a step forward. Either way, this episode will help you learn how to increase your self-awareness so that you can live a life in alignment with your values and not let perfectionism keep you stuck. You will need to learn how to understand your thoughts, feelings, and behaviours so that you can identify the areas in your life where your perfectionism is helpful or harmful. Perfectionists often overcommit to tasks, struggling to let go of control, procrastinate, go through cycles of go, and burnout. All of these things prevent you from excelling in your career and relationships. I know so many people, and some of my clients, I would say the majority of my clients to be honest, they often stay in jobs much longer than they need to because they don't feel good enough and they feel like they owe their employer something. So this often leads to work becoming their whole life and resentment building up because they end up doing a job of 2 or 3 people. So, that's why self-awareness is key. You need to be able to regularly check in with your needs and emotions so that you can set boundaries and keep yourself safe so that you don't overwork and burn out. You'll also need to challenge the limiting beliefs that you have, such as, not feeling good enough. And you need to do that in the moment when those self-critical thoughts pop up. You also need to learn how to celebrate your wins, reframe obstacles as challenges and things that you can learn from, And the only way you're going to start healing your perfectionism journey is by increasing your self-awareness. It is literally the first step. I talk about it all the time. In fact, in my last podcast episode, I talked about how important self-awareness is for healing your perfectionism. And I'm going into more detail today on some steps you can take. But it's the ultimate unskippable step in healing. It does feel like your brain is breaking when you realise that certain habits and patterns you have can be explained by other things in your life. Like, you're like, whoa, oh my God, I didn't know this about myself. Like, it's fun and it's exciting and, it can be quite draining at times. But self-awareness is going to be the thing that helps you level up, learn how to be productive without burning out. You will be able to climb up the career ladder if that's something that you want. Yeah, and you can climb up the career ladder and work hard and achieve your goals and still have a life outside of it. Like, self-awareness will help you do that. And I'm not going to lie to you, healing is hard. You need to be willing to be brutally honest with yourself, confront uncomfortable truths and make a commitment to change. And that is easier said than done. If you're a perfectionist, your fear of failure, high standards, needs for control and avoidance of discomfort will keep you in the dark for many years, which means you won't necessarily seek help until you hit rock bottom. Luckily, that's where I come in. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're welcome. You're already ahead of the curve. So many people don't even realise they're perfectionists. They're just repeating cycles on autopilot, never ending, wondering why the same things keep happening to them, wondering why they keep burning out, wondering why they feel so unhappy, wondering why life constantly feels like a sacrifice for a future that's not guaranteed. They're so in that world that they don't even realise they're living it. Whereas when you become self-aware, you just step off the script and you're able to analyse your decisions, your thinking patterns, the reasons why you do things. And, before we get into some of the tips, here are some signs that you lack self-awareness as a perfectionist. So 1, you hardly reflect on your thoughts and your behaviour. 2, life feels like it's been on autopilot. That's a key one. 3, you don't know what your personal values are. You're so focused on the next goal, you never really reflect and decide if that is in alignment with your values or not. 4, You struggle to identify your emotions. Like, I remember I couldn't express myself in real time. Like, I'd go home after a situation and be like, man, I should have said this, I should have said that. But in the time, I just didn't even connect with my true emotions and my needs and set boundaries at the time. 5, so when you get constructive feedback, it feels like a personal attack. And that's because you tie your self-worth to your output. 6, uncertainty gives you anxiety, so you try and control everything. And perfectionism, a lot of it comes from that need to control. You know, like, you believe if you are perfect and everything's perfect, then you'll be happy. When obviously we know in real life is messy. Perfection just doesn't exist. But we're trying, like perfectionists, we do try to make things work. And it seems to be the thing that causes a lot of people to have control issues. The next one, 7, you are chronically indecisive. 8, you struggle to communicate your needs and expect others to automatically know. So a lot of people assume other people think like them, and that is just not the case. And believing that will cause many problems in your life, like whether it's in the workplace, relationships, friendships, whatever it is, like that mindset will keep you stuck. And then the final one I'm going to talk about today is you fail to set boundaries, and that results in you overcommitting and burning out. So if you recognize any of these signs, then congratulations on becoming more self-aware. So here are the 3 straightforward ways as a perfectionist you can increase your self-awareness. Number 1, journaling. I know I talk about journaling a lot, but it is so essential for my mindful productivity system. It's so essential for anyone who decides to work with me as a client and receive coaching. Like, it is a game changer. So I will not shut up about it. In fact, I will double down. But it's probably the most common suggestion when it comes to increasing your self-awareness. So I thought I would just put it first to get out of the way. And, you know, as I've mentioned this before so many times, I used to roll my eyes whenever someone would suggest journaling, as if it was like some kind of magical cure and it was going to like fix all my problems. And I just thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. Like, another person preaching about journaling. But the truth is, while it's not a magic cure or anything, it is incredibly informative. And like, over time, like, you do get to know yourself in a really intimate way, and you start to notice patterns in your thinking and your behavior. And it's like a mirror to yourself. And there's something really like pure and, I don't know, wholesome about reading your journal from like years ago when you're going through a really difficult time, because then you can see all of the changes and you can see how far you've come, and it just puts things in perspective. So I highly recommend journaling. And also, I also recommend that you try to journal on good and bad days. So like, make it a daily habit, you know, start small with like 1 sentence or something like that, and then build on it. You know, don't only focus on offloading your negative thoughts, because then you'll associate journaling as an activity to do when you're feeling down. You know, try to keep it a neutral experience, so good, bad, in the middle. You know, just use it to reflect on your thoughts and feelings and experiences without judgment. You can also use journal prompts if you're struggling to find things to write about. So if you know me, you know I love a good bullet journal, and I use that to plan my week. Like, I've tried with all the different Notion and other things, but I always come back to my bullet journal. It's my baby. But I have a weekly review where I ask myself these questions, and you can just do the same. What went well this week? What didn't go so well? Did I behave in alignment with my values? What perfectionist behaviours do I want to change? And what will I do differently next week? Like, you know, so it's like a safe space for you to answer these questions and get to know yourself and make changes and identify things you want to change. So I highly recommend it. Also, in my newsletter, I send to you like weekly different journal prompts you can use related to perfectionism and relating to the topic. I write a lot of blog posts as well that include different journal prompts you can use. So I have like a bank of resources if you're stuck. Number 2. So the next thing you can do to increase your self-awareness is get feedback from others. And this step might feel a bit awkward, but it is necessary, okay? You need to do it. You need to get feedback from your friends, family, colleagues, and, you know, their feedback can be really helpful in identifying your strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots. And they may also offer different perspectives on your behaviour attitudes, and interactions, which is a really great way to help you deepen your self-awareness. So, for example, you might notice that with certain people or certain types of characters, you behave in one way, but with other types of people, you behave in another way. And you wouldn't realize this unless it was pointed out and you have this evidence, you have this data set. However, important disclaimer, if you decide to ask someone in your circle for feedback, it is important that you approach it with an open mind and a willingness to learn. Okay? So don't try to be defensive or over-explain your behavior, because you will make things a bit awkward possibly, but they might not feel heard. They'll be like, oh, well, you asked me for feedback and now you're shutting me down. Like, it's not really a good way to maintain that connection. If you don't fully understand the feedback someone's given you, ask specific questions to clarify and, say, look, this is for my own development. I really like to learn. Can you explain more how this behavior comes up, how you experience this behavior from me, and what do you mean by that? Things like that. It makes a big difference. And after seeking feedback, you may want to take some time to reflect in your journal. So, ask yourself these questions, like, did anything surprise you? Were there any recurring themes? How did hearing the feedback make you feel? Are there any aspects of yourself that you would like to understand better from hearing that feedback? And reflecting on the feedback experience can provide you with further insights on how to increase your self-awareness and grow as a person. It's really valuable. I learned so much about myself from seeing how other people perceived me. I had a lot of limiting beliefs and I never felt like I was good enough. So hearing feedback from other people where they would say, oh yeah, you did this, this and this, and I found that really amazing, and you're a really conscientious person, and I really admire your skills in this, this and this, it kind of just made me think, wow, really? You see that? That's me? It kind of gave me the confidence to continue growing. So you might get the same experience. Or I know there's some traits that I had in the past that I still battle with today, that are quite negative, and at least now I'm aware of it, so I can make changes and I can notice when it comes up. But I didn't realize that in the past, and it's only when other people pointed it out. So as long as you see it as a learning opportunity rather than taking it super personally and adding it to the evidence bank that you're not good enough, use it and say, oh, this is something I can improve on. Thank you so much for letting me know. This has really helped me. And obviously be careful with who you ask for feedback from. If there is someone that is abusive, or someone that is a negative force in your life, or someone that you genuinely wouldn't take their advice, probably don't ask them for feedback, use discernment, have discernment when it comes to this. Number 3. So, if you want to increase your self-awareness, you need to read books, okay? I'm a big non-fiction book nerd. I love reading. I just find it so interesting learning about the human mind and just random things about the world we live in. I just love learning. Learning itself is my hobby. And reading books just opens my mind and has just been such a great experience and has helped me increase my self-awareness so much. Reading books on self-awareness, psychology, and self-development will help you expand your understanding of yourself. And to be honest, most of my biggest mindset shifts have been triggered from the pages inside of a well-written book. And if you don't like reading for whatever reason, then I recommend you listen to audiobooks instead. It's the same information, however, you can listen to it on the go, or while you're doing chores, while you're driving, whatever it is. And, I would say personally, when I was super busy, I would get through way more audiobooks, and then as a form of self-care, I would read a physical book, because that would just be me focusing on reading. It was mindful reading, if that makes sense, because it was my one concentration. So it just depends on how you want to consume this media. But I use both. I have an Audible subscription and I've had it for years. I'm obsessed. And then I'm always buying books on Waterstones or Amazon if they don't have it in Waterstones. But I prefer Waterstones because, you got to support actual book businesses. But so either way, here are some of my book recommendations for increasing self-awareness. So the first one I'd recommend is called Daring Greatly, and it's by Brené Brown. So Brené Brown, she talks a lot about vulnerability, and she's a doctor. I don't know if she's a psychologist or she's a researcher. She's really prominent. She's got a lot of amazing books. And I recommend you check out her TED Talk as well. But it's all about how vulnerability can lead to deeper connections and greater resilience. So I highly recommend it. The next book I'd recommend is The Body Keeps the Score, and it's by Bessel van der Kolk. He basically explains how trauma can affect the body and the mind, and he talks a lot about healing and resilience again, and the things we can do to promote good health and well-being. I highly recommend it. However, it is a bit of a dense book, I'm not gonna lie. So I actually have the physical copy, but I didn't end up reading it. So I actually ended up listening to it on Audible because it was such a dense book. And at that time when I was reading it, I was so busy. So I'd always listen to it whilst I was at the gym, and it changed my mind, and it really prompted me to get into more somatic processing, sort of healing methods. The next book I want to recommend is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which is by Susan Jeffers. And she basically provides practical advice on overcoming fear and self-doubt so that you can pursue like your dreams and whatever you want to do, which is something that perfectionists need. Like, fear of failure is so key for perfectionists. And I highly recommend this book. It was one of the first like genuine non-fiction books I read, because I used to be a fiction girly, back in the day with, I didn't get into Twilight too much, but I used to love Divergent and all those other types of books. So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway was the first, like, I would say, non-fiction, like, adult book. I was like, oh, I'm actually a real person reading a non-fiction book now. Like, I felt like such a grown-up when I was reading it. But, it really helped me realise that life is for living. Like, the impact it had on my life was such a big thing at the time. And then the next book I want to recommend is How to Do the Work by Nicole LePera. And she basically offers like a holistic way of healing. I think she's like described herself as holistic psychologist. So she's a researcher, she studied it, but she incorporates loads of different things when it comes to healing, which is away from the traditional like medical model or view of, healing and psychology. So I recommend her book. It has like different sort of activities and workbooks, and it's a very interactive book, so I highly recommend it. So these books like are quite straightforward, and they offer guidance for like navigating like perfectionism and increasing your self-awareness. Like, I highly recommend it. Also, I have a whole book recommendations page on my website. So if you go to thevaluedlife.co.uk, then check that out and let me know what you think. Also, let me know if there's any other books you would like to recommend. I am always looking to add things to my reading list. And if you made it this far into the podcast, you get a bonus step in how to increase your self-awareness, and that is get coaching. I am an internationally accredited mindset and productivity coach. I can offer you comprehensive support and personalised guidance and accountability when it comes to healing your perfectionism. I've been there, I've done that. Like, I know what I went through, and I can tailor my expertise to help you in your journey. So I have a one-to-one coaching program called Overwhelmed to Empowered, and it's like a breakdown where you get workbooks and activities and really intense guidance, and as well as like videos, and it's a real comprehensive thing. You get guided visualization recordings as well that you can listen to help you shift your mindset. Like, I've really put a lot of thought into this program. And I am actually offering it on a discounted rate since it's the first cycle that I'm going to be working with people. It is one-on-one, it's not a group coaching program. So you will get that support from me on a weekly basis, and it is 12 weeks. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you just want to start your healing journey and you want a structured program. But I also offer one-off 90-minute coaching program called Own Your Worth, and it's a breakthrough session, which is meant to be quite intensive, but help you identify your perfectionist triggers and the things that are going on, your limiting beliefs. You also get personalised journal prompts, personalised guided visualization recording, and a detailed action plan, plus further discounts on any more coaching. So I highly recommend it. And if you just don't even know, you just want regular coaching that is tailored towards a specific goal, then I do that as well. It's just, we'll work together at the start and we'll come up with an action plan, and then we'll just chip away at it week by week, completely personalised and tailored for you. So there are a variety of different ways you can work with me, and I want to make sure it's as accessible as possible. So if that's something you're interested in, you can always book a discovery call. There's a link in the description, or you can go to my website, thevaluedlife.co.uk. But either way, remember, whether it's through reading books or journaling, listening to podcast episodes, reading blog posts, or even investing in coaching. Investing in yourself is one of the most valuable commitments you can make to life. Like, it's only you. Like, you are the only person you're going to be with your whole life. So you might as well invest in making sure that you can live the life that you want to live. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, which is all about the 3 different ways you can increase your self-awareness as a perfectionist, which are journaling, getting feedback from others, and reading books, as well as, the bonus one of getting coaching from me or another coach, but ideally me, because I specialise with perfectionists. But if you want to find out more tips you can do, you could check out my blog post, which has 7 things you can do to increase your self-awareness, and you can check it out at thevaluedlife.co.uk. And before we go, I want to say that the quote of the week is by Byron Katie. And she says, placing the blame or judgment on someone else leaves you powerless to change your experience. Taking responsibility for your beliefs and judgments gives you the power to change them. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, please rate it, because it lets me know that you have found the information I'm sharing useful, and hopefully more perfectionists can find this resource. And as always, remember, life is for living.